Genghis Khan, a name that still sends shivers down the spine of history itself. His Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe, the largest contiguous land empire in human history, built on mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. Historians estimate he killed approximately 40 million people. That's roughly 10% of the entire world's population at the time. But it wasn't just the numbers that made him terrifying. It was how he did it. Here are the 15 worst things Genghis Khan ever did to his enemies. The Tangut genocide. You've probably never heard of the Tangut people. And that's exactly what Genghis Khan wanted. The Tanguts ruled the Western Xia Empire in what is now northwestern China. They had their own unique language, writing system, architecture, art, and religion. For nearly 200 years, they built a sophisticated kingdom along the Silk Road. By 1227, they had been Mongol vassals for years, paying tribute and providing soldiers. But when Genghis Khan demanded troops for another campaign, the Tangut king refused. Worse, he reportedly mocked the aging Khan. That was the last mistake their civilization would ever make. Genghis Khan, now in his 60s and dying, made their destruction his final mission. Not just punishment, complete erasure. In 1226, he personally led 180,000 soldiers into Western Xia. What followed was systematic extermination. Cities weren't just attacked, they were obliterated. Populations exterminated to the last person. Men, women, children, infants, no exceptions. The Tangut king reportedly died of fear before the Mongols even arrived. His successor tried surrendering with gifts. The Mongols made him wait outside Genghis Khan's tent for 3 days, then killed him anyway. On his deathbed, Genghis issued his final command: kill them all. I don't want anyone to ever mention them again. His generals obeyed with terrifying efficiency. The capital burned, the royal family executed, temples demolished, libraries destroyed. Their unique 6,000-character writing system deliberately erased. Survivors were scattered and assimilated. Within generations, Tangut identity ceased to exist. Their language wasn't deciphered until the 20th century. Historian John Mann calls this possibly the first recorded attempted genocide in human history. Genghis Khan didn't just defeat the Tanguts, he made the world forget they ever existed. The Burial Massacre in August 1227, the greatest conqueror in human history, took his final breath. Genghis Khan died at the age of 65, possibly from injuries sustained after falling from his horse, though the exact cause remains debated. His empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, largest contiguous land empire ever created. But even in death, Genghis Khan demanded blood, lots of it. He wanted to be remembered as a god, an immortal legend. A figure so powerful that even his grave would remain beyond human reach. For that vision to become reality, his burial location had to remain a secret forever. No one could ever find his tomb. No one could ever disturb his eternal rest. No enemy could ever desecrate his remains. So he gave his final orders, and they were absolutely horrifying. A select group of servants carried his corpse deep into the Mongolian wilderness, far from any city, village, or known landmark. As the funeral procession traveled through the endless steppes, Mongol soldiers followed at a careful distance with a simple and brutal command: kill anyone who sees us. Every single person they encountered on the journey was executed on the spot. travelers on distant roads, shepherds tending their flocks, random nomadic families who simply happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, all of them slaughtered without hesitation to protect the secret of the Khan's final destination. When they finally reached the burial site believed to be somewhere near the sacred mountain of Berkhankeldin, approximately 2,000 slaves were put to work. They dug the tomb. They prepared the burial chamber. They laid the great Khan to rest with his treasures. When they finished their work, Mongol soldiers killed every single one of them. 2,000 people executed in moments. But Genghis Khan had thought even further ahead. Those soldiers who carried out the executions were then killed by another group of warriors waiting nearby. And according to some accounts, those executioners either took their own lives or were eliminated by yet another group, marrying daughters to kings, then sending them to die. Genghis Khan was a master manipulator, and his most twisted scheme, using his own daughters as weapons of conquest. Here's how it worked. When Genghis Khan wanted to ally with a neighboring kingdom, he would offer one of his daughters in marriage to the king. Kinda sounds like the usual political smooth talk, doesn't it? But there was a deadly catch. Before the wedding, the king was required to dismiss every single one of his other wives, no exceptions. This ensured that Genghis Khan's daughter would be the only woman in line to produce heirs. Then came the real trap. After the marriage, Genghis Khan would summon his new son-in-law to join the Mongol army, not as a commander safe behind the lines. No, these kings were sent directly to the front lines of the most dangerous battles, and shockingly, almost all of them died in combat. What a coincidence. With the king dead and no other wives to challenge her, Genghis Khan's daughter would inherit the entire kingdom. She became the sole ruler, answering directly to her father. By the time Genghis Khan died, his daughters controlled territories stretching from China's Yellow Sea to Iran's Caspian Sea. A massive empire within an empire, all gained through strategic marriages and convenient battlefield deaths. He didn't just conquer kingdoms with swords. He conquered them with wedding rings and death warrants. Brutal, brilliant, absolutely ruthless. Destroying irrigation systems to create permanent wastelands. Most conquerors throughout history wanted to capture cities and use them. Take the wealth, enslave the people, rule the land, build an empire on top of what already existed. But Genghis Khan sometimes wanted something far darker. He wanted certain places to never exist again. Not just destroyed, completely erased from the possibility of recovery. When the Mongols swept through Persia, Mesopotamia, and Central Asia, they didn't just kill people and burn buildings. They systematically destroyed something far more important: the irrigation systems that had taken civilizations thousands of years to build. Ancient Persia and Mesopotamia were among the most fertile lands on Earth. Complex networks of canals, dams, reservoirs, and underground channels called qanats brought water from distant mountains to farms and cities. These engineering marvels had been perfected over generations. They turned scorching deserts into lush gardens and supported millions of lives. Genghis Khan ordered them completely destroyed. His armies smashed dams that had stood for centuries. They collapsed underground water tunnels that stretched for miles. They filled canals with rubble, debris, and rotting corpses. They diverted rivers away from cities. They salted fertile fields so nothing would ever grow again. The goal wasn't just military conquest. It was permanent civilizational annihilation. Without water, survivors couldn't farm. They couldn't rebuild. They couldn't even stay. Thriving agricultural centers turned to dust. Magnificent cities became abandoned ghost towns. Entire regions that had flourished for millennia transformed into barren, lifeless wastelands. Here's the most chilling parts. Of these areas have never fully recovered. Even today, over 800 years later, regions of Iran and Iraq remain less populated and less developed because the ancient irrigation systems were never completely restored. The damage was that thorough, that's permanent. Using human shields, when Genghis Khan first invaded China, he faced a serious problem. His Mongol warriors were unstoppable on open plains, but they had no idea how to breach massive fortified walls. Chinese cities were protected by towering defenses, deadly archers, and brutal traps. So Genghis Khan came up with a solution, a horrifying one. He developed a tactic called Karash, which translates to living shields, and it was exactly as evil as it sounds. Before attacking any city, the Mongols would raid surrounding villages and capture hundreds or even thousands of civilians. Men, women, children, the elderly, anyone they could grab. Then they would force these prisoners to march at the front of the Mongol army during sieges. The captives were pushed toward the city walls first, absorbing arrows, bombs, and boiling oil meant for Mongol soldiers. Defenders often faced impossible choices. From atop the walls, they might look down to see civilians, sometimes their own family, forced forward as human shields. In that moment, they had to decide, engage the enemy or refuse and risk the city's fall. It was psychological torture combined with military strategy. But Genghis Khan took it even further. Sometimes he dressed prisoners in Mongol armor and sent them charging forward. The defenders would waste precious arrows, killing their own countrymen, thinking they were enemy soldiers. He also forced captives to carry heavy siege equipment toward the walls, knowing they would be slaughtered first. Collecting 9 sacks of severed ears, the Mongols didn't just kill their enemies, they counted them, and their method of counting was absolutely gruesome. In April 1241, the Mongol army clashed with European forces at the Battle of Legnica in modern-day Poland. The Europeans assembled an impressive coalition of Polish knights, German soldiers, and Templar warriors. They believed their heavily armored cavalry could crush these eastern invaders. They were dead wrong. The Mongols used their classic feigned retreat tactic, pretending to flee in panic. The overconfident European knights charged after them, breaking their formation. Then the Mongol cavalry turned around and unleashed devastating arrow fire. The European army was systematically slaughtered. But the aftermath was where things got truly disturbing. After the battle, the Mongol commanders needed to report their kill count to the Khan, but counting thousands of scattered corpses across a bloody battlefield was impractical. So they developed a simpler solution. They cut off the right ear of every single enemy corpse. Soldiers moved through the battlefield with knives, slicing ears from the fallen knights, peasants, the wounded who were still breathing. Everyone got the same treatment. When they finished collecting, the severed ears filled 9 large sacks. 9 sacks of human ears, thousands and thousands of them, delivered as battlefield statistics. Molten silver execution of Innohook. This is the story of how one man's greed triggered the deaths of millions, and how Genghis Khan made him pay in the most agonizing way imaginable. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent a massive trade caravan of 450 merchants to the Khwarezmian Empire. They carried gold, silver, silk, and precious goods. This wasn't an invasion. It was a genuine attempt to establish peaceful trade relations. But Inalhuk, the governor of a border city called Otrar, had other plans. He accused the merchants of being spies, seized all their valuable goods, and executed every single one of them. 450 innocent men slaughtered for their wealth. Genghis Khan was furious, but tried diplomacy first. He sent ambassadors demanding justice. Hand over Inalhuk for punishment, and there would be peace. The Khwarezmian Shah responded by killing the lead ambassador and shaving the beards off the others, a massive insult in Mongol culture. That was the final mistake. Genghis Khan raised an army of 200,000 men and obliterated the entire Khwarezmian Empire. Millions died because of Inalhuk's greed, but the governor himself received special treatment. After a brutal 5-month siege, Inalhuk was captured alive and dragged before Genghis Khan. His punishment was poetic and horrifying. Molten silver was poured directly into his eyes and ears. The very metal he had stolen now burned through his skull, boiling his brain from the inside. I am the flail of God. Burning Bukhara's library. Bukhara was one of the greatest cities in the Islamic world, a center of learning, culture, and trade. Its library held over 45,000 books, centuries of knowledge, science, poetry, and wisdom collected in one place. In February 1220, Genghis Khan arrived at its gates. The city's defenders knew they were doomed. After a brief resistance, the outer city surrendered within 3 days, but a small group of soldiers retreated to the citadel, hoping to hold out. Bad decision. Genghis Khan ordered his men to set fire to the city to flush them out. Since most buildings were made of wood, the flames spread uncontrollably. The legendary library, with its 45,000 irreplaceable manuscripts, burned to ashes. Centuries of human knowledge destroyed in a single night. But the most chilling moment came when Genghis Khan rode his horse directly into the city's grand mosque. He gathered the wealthy citizens and religious leaders before him. Then he delivered a speech that still echoes through history. O people, know that you have committed great sins. If you ask me what proof I have, I say it is because I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. He didn't just conquer Bukhara. He declared himself divine judgment. Siege of Chengdu. Chengdu was the magnificent capital of the Jin dynasty, modern-day Beijing. It was a city of over 1 million people, protected by walls that stretched about 18 miles and stood around 40 feet high. It seemed impossible to conquer. Genghis Khan didn't need to break those walls. He just needed patience. In 1214, the Mongols surrounded Chengdu and cut off every supply route. No food could enter, no one could escape. The greatest city in China became the world's largest prison. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. Inside the walls, hell was unfolding. Food ran out completely. People ate their horses, then their dogs, then their rats. When there was nothing left, they turned on each other. Cannibalism spread through the starving population. Parents ate children, neighbors ate neighbors. The living consumed the dead just to survive another day. A rescue mission carrying food and supplies was sent from the south. The desperate citizens watched from the walls as it approached. Hope was finally coming. Then the Mongols intercepted it. They slaughtered the rescuers and feasted on the supplies in full view of the starving city. By summer 1215, Chengdu surrendered. The Mongols poured in and massacred tens of thousands. An estimated 60,000 women threw themselves from the city walls, choosing death over capture. Russian princes crushed under victory feast in 1223. Two of Genghis Khan's most brilliant generals, Subutai and Gib, led a Mongol expedition into Russia. They were scouting new territories, and the Russian princes had no idea what was coming. A coalition of Russian princes assembled a massive army to stop the Mongol threat. They even killed the Mongol ambassadors who came to negotiate peace, a fatal mistake that sealed their fate. The two armies clashed at the Battle of the Khalkha River. Despite outnumbering the Mongols, the Russian forces were completely outmaneuvered and crushed. The defeat was catastrophic. Less than 1/10 of the Russian army survived. But the real horror came after the battle ended. The Mongols captured several Russian princes and high-ranking nobles, including Prince Mstislav of Kiev. These were powerful men, royalty. They expected to be ransomed or executed with some dignity. They received neither. The Mongol generals devised a special punishment. They forced the captured princes to lie flat on the ground. Then they constructed a heavy wooden platform directly on top of their bodies. Tables and chairs were placed on the platform. Food and drink were brought out, and the Mongol commanders sat down to enjoy a victory feast, while they laughed, drank, and celebrated their triumph. The Russian princes beneath them were slowly crushed to death, their bones cracking, their lungs collapsing, suffocating under the weight of their enemies' celebration. The Termez disembowelment in 1220, the Mongol army swept into the ancient city of Termez, located in modern-day Uzbekistan. Like countless cities before it, Termez fell to the unstoppable Mongol horde. The population was rounded up, and the killing began. But then something happened that turned a massacre into something far more disturbing. During the slaughter, a desperate woman begged for her life. She told her Mongol captors that she had swallowed valuable pearls to hide them. Spare her, and she would give them up. The Mongols didn't wait for her to pass them naturally. They sliced her open right there, cut into her stomach, and retrieved the precious gemstones from her insides. She died on the spot, gutted like an animal for a handful of pearls. But here's where it gets truly horrifying. When the Mongol commander heard about this, he didn't punish his men. Instead, he saw an opportunity. If one woman had swallowed valuables, maybe others had too. He issued an order that still chills historians to this day. Every single corpse in Termez was to be cut open and searched. Every body, every man, woman, and child who had already been killed, their stomachs sliced apart, their intestines examined for hidden treasure. The Mongols turned a battlefield into a butcher shop, mutilating the dead in search of swallowed wealth. The knee-shaper skull pyramids. Genghis Khan had many sons-in-law, but Takakor was his favorite. The man had earned the great Khan's respect and, more importantly, his daughter's heart. Their marriage was one of genuine love, rare in an empire built on strategic alliances. In late 1220, Takakor was leading a siege against the Persian city of Nishapur. The city had originally surrendered to the Mongols, but then rebelled when they heard other cities were resisting. A fatal mistake. During the assault, an arrow flew from the city walls and struck Takakor. He died on the battlefield. When Genghis Khan's daughter received the news, her grief transformed into volcanic rage. She went to her father with a single demand: kill everyone, everything, leave nothing alive. Genghis Khan granted her wish. He sent his son Tolui with a massive army to execute his daughter's revenge. Shaper fell within days. Then the real horror began. Every single living creature in the city was rounded up and slaughtered. Men, women, children, infants, the elderly, even the dogs, cats, and livestock were hunted down and killed. But the daughter wanted absolute certainty. What if some were only wounded and playing dead? She ordered every corpse beheaded. Then she commanded the skulls be stacked into giant pyramids separated by category. One pyramid for men, one for women, one for children, executing 100,000 Chinese prisoners during peace talks. In 1211, Genghis Khan turned his attention toward China and launched a massive invasion against the powerful Jin dynasty. These weren't simple nomadic tribes he was fighting anymore. The Jin Empire controlled over 53 million people and had massive fortified cities. But Genghis Khan didn't care about the odds. His Mongol warriors swept through northern China like a plague of locusts. They burned villages, slaughtered armies, and captured city after city. Within a few years, they had devastated Jin territory and taken well over 100,000 prisoners. Then something unexpected happened. The Jin emperor, desperate to stop the bloodshed, opened peace negotiations. He offered massive amounts of gold, silver, and silk. He even offered one of his princesses as a bride. Anything to make the Mongols leave. Genghis Khan agreed to negotiate. The two sides began talking terms. Hope flickered that the war might finally end. But Genghis Khan had a point to make. During these so-called peace talks, he ordered the execution of all 100,000 Chinese prisoners. Every single one slaughtered while diplomats were still discussing the terms of surrender. It wasn't about military necessity. It was a message. I hold all the power here. Your lives mean nothing to me. The Jin emperor, horrified by this betrayal of basic diplomacy, realized he wasn't dealing with a normal enemy. He was dealing with a monster who used peace talks as a stage for mass murder. The Tatar, genocide the Tatars, were the tribe that poisoned Genghis Khan's father when he was just a child. For years, that hatred burned inside him like a slow fire. And when he finally had the power to act on it, his revenge was beyond brutal. In 1202, Genghis Khan allied with a powerful leader named Ong Khan, and together they crushed the Tatar army in battle. The Tatars were defeated, broken, at his mercy. But mercy wasn't in Genghis Khan's vocabulary. Not for the people who destroyed his childhood. He gathered every single Tatar male and lined them up. Then he brought out a wagon and pointed to the linchpin. That's the small axle pin in the center of the wheel. It stood about 90 centimeters tall, roughly 3 feet. His order was simple and horrifying. Every Tatar man taller than the specified linchpin was condemned to immediate execution, with no provision for exceptions, legal review, or escape. Think about what that means. Every adult male, every teenager, every young boy who had hit a growth spurt, lined up and systematically beheaded. The only survivors were infants and toddlers too small to reach that wooden pin. The women enslaved and distributed among his soldiers. In one calculated command, Genghis Khan essentially eliminated an entire generation of Tatar men. He didn't just defeat them, he erased their future. This was genocide with a measuring stick, catapulting diseased corpses into cities. Genghis Khan didn't just kill his enemies, he weaponized death itself. During his brutal sieges across Asia, the Mongols developed one of the earliest forms of biological warfare, and it was absolutely disgusting. When enemy cities refused to surrender, the Mongols would gather corpses, often victims of plague or disease, load them onto massive catapults, and launch them over the city walls. Imagine being a defender on those walls. You're already starving, already terrified, and suddenly rotting human bodies start raining from the sky. The stench alone would be unbearable. But that wasn't even the worst part. Those diseased corpses spread sickness through the entire city: plague, infection, death from the inside out. The defenders couldn't fight what they couldn't see. While they were busy dealing with the Mongol army outside, invisible killers were spreading through their own streets. Some historians believe this tactic contributed to the spread of the Black Plague that later devastated Europe, killing 25 million people. Genghis Khan understood something terrifying. Why waste your soldiers storming walls when you can let disease do the killing for you? He turned corpses into weapons, death into strategy, and enemy cities into mass graves before his army even entered the gates. This was biological warfare, 13th century style. If this video gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more dark history content.